NFL draft, and one of the biggest questions out there, where will Shedeur Sanders land? This week he's visiting the Raiders, who have the 6th overall pick. Last week Sanders visited the Pittsburgh Steelers, whose quarterback situation next season remains unresolved. Steelers currently have the 21st pick in the first round. Sanders has already put teams on notice if he falls that far to Pittsburgh. Here he is talking about his visit with Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin.
I understand the mindset and why they win a lot.
Why do they win a lot?
Just how he is as a person, and just the values that the team has, and what he preaches from his staff down is similar to like my dad.
All right, our NFL analyst Dan Orlovski is with us. You just heard from Shedeur Sanders. What do you make of him and the fit in Pittsburgh?
I like the personality fit. I really do. He mentions it, Shedeur, with the attachment to Mike Tomlin, how he's grown up under his father, Deion Sanders. So personality, expectations, can you handle? And when I think of Shedeur Sanders, I think of a little bit more of a point guard, a control, timing, rhythm, pinpoint type of passer. So scheme-wise or fit-wise, I go, well, big play receivers down the field with a quarterback that's a little bit more dynamic or talented with that 10-yard throw, that 15-yard throw. So it would be interesting to see how Pittsburgh can marry, if that's the case, the pinpoint passer with the big playmaking receivers down the field. So if he is their quarterback, it's the best marriage for both the skill players and the player.
So if you're Pittsburgh, you're in love with Sanders, but you're hearing all this talk about him potentially sliding. Do you say, oh, you know what? Let's just hope he's there for us at 24.
You got to go.
Or do you get aggressive and trade up and go get him?
You have to go. And it goes back to a little bit of the news that we got last week from New Orleans and Derek Carr's injury and his potential impact on the 2025 season. Because you also know that they're in the running for a quarterback and maybe Shedeur. So if you can't sit back and think, well, we'll see what happens. So you're thinking, okay, calling Carolina at 8, calling the Jets at 7, or the Raiders at 6, and saying, how can we jump the New Orleans Saints? Because whether Aaron Rodgers is a part of the plans or not, if you come out of the draft needing a quarterback and Shedeur goes ahead of where you expect him to go and you don't get him, that's a bad look for an organization that right now needs to find a future at that position. I do not think they can sit back and wait. I do believe if they want him, they have to be urgent.
We'll see what happens. That's Dan Orlovski. More from Dan a little bit later in the show. Hey, 7 teams in the NFL have new head coaches heading into next season, and those teams are allowed to get a head start on the offseason workout. Speaking of Dallas, the Cowboys underway today. Michael Parsons, he's looking for a new deal, is in attendance, according to our Todd Archer. New head coach Brian Schottenheimer takes over a team that finished 7-10 a year ago and missed out on the playoffs. Our NFL analyst Dan Orlovski is back here with us. Based on how the offseason has gone for the Cowboys, biggest concern, and you know I'm locked in, is my squad, that you have for them going into the season?
Are they going to find a way to stop the run? I feel like we've said that for the past couple of seasons of the Dallas Cowboys, the physicality up front. And everyone's like, well, they got to get interior defensive line help, and they have to add different linebackers, and they've done that, and it's similar results. So they do have to find a way within their division and their conference to be more physical up front and stop the run. And then there's question marks attached to their secondary, mainly health-wise. Trayvon Diggs, their all-pro corner, is he going to be healthy enough to start the season and get back to that all-pro caliber playing level? So their defense as a whole, their defense is going to have to get better, stopping the run and just getting health on the perimeter.
Yeah, now, they have the 12th pick in the draft. What players do you think would be a good fit there?
Well, naturally, after that, I'm going to say wide receiver.
There you go, offense.
Yeah. So I think the Cowboys have the chance to be better than people expect. They need Dak to be healthy, and they need somebody up at Texas. Tape, and he tested so well, and you're like, man, this guy's a complete wide receiver, and he has a vertical threat ability. If Dak can stay healthy, and that's not something he has done over the past couple of seasons, I think that offensive line is going to be a good unit. I think this is a playoff contending football team, but they have to get somebody that is a legit threat opposite CeeDee Lamb.
I'm surprised you say wide receiver because running back was such an issue with it.
It's such a deep running back class. This Ashton, Genty, and Hampton are kind of the leaders of the class in many people's eyes, but you can get a really good back in this draft in the 2nd and or 3rd round.
By the way, Cowboys had a league low 6 rushing touchdowns last season. That's Dan Orlovski. Thank you.
We're 10 days away from the NFL draft. at Lambeau Field on ESPN. With Cam Ward widely expected to be the number 1 pick to the Titans, then the draft starts really at number 2, where our Mel Kiper Jr. projects Travis Hunter to go to the Browns. Mel doesn't have another QB coming off the board until pick number 9, with the Saints taking Shedeur Sanders. Speaking of, NFL insider Dan Graziano joining us for more. And Grozfather, there are still some uncertain notes here ahead of this draft. Let's run through some of that in your Graziano notes beginning in New Orleans. What can you tell us?
There's a report, Randy, at the end of last week about Derek Carr and a shoulder injury that could threaten his availability for the 2025 season. So there's a lot of mystery around Derek Carr's situation that has led some people to wonder if it's more likely that Shedeur Sanders or some quarterback could be the Saints' pick at number 9. If the Saints like Shedeur Sanders enough to take him at 9, they might have been thinking that way anyway, with Carr only under contract for 1 more year. But it does lend an air of intrigue to this 10 days ahead of time. If Shedeur Sanders does not go at 9, if he's still available at 10 or in the teens, watch out for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21 for potential to move up. They had him in for a visit late last week. They are still waiting on an answer from Aaron Rodgers, to whom they've had an offer out for some time, but they know that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be the long-term answer at quarterback, even if he does sign there. So the Steelers could be in the mix for a quarterback at 21. Remember, they don't have a second-round pick. They traded it for DK Metcalf. And then Abdul Carter, if the Browns were to take Abdul Carter, the Giants might take Travis Hunter. The fact is the Giants need a long-term answer at quarterback as well, but they have the 2nd pick in the 2nd round, and if they decide to pass on a quarterback up top at the top of the 1st round, they could be in the mix for someone like Louisville's Tyler Shuck, who you saw there, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, that next group of quarterbacks, assuming Cam Ward has gone 1 and Shedeur Sanders is gone by the time the Giants pick again.
Tyler Shuck has been trending upward in a nice way for the kid out of Louisville. That is Dan Graziano with very latest for us on SportsCenter. Thank you, Dan.
No more team in the NFL draft that has to have more urgency than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is why. We all assume and think that Rodgers is going to go be their quarterback. I think it's a done deal, but I don't know. And if it's not, and now you understand that the Saints are sitting there at 9 with question marks at their starting quarterback, you, if you're the Steelers, cannot sit back and not potentially go to 6 or 7 or 8 and try to jump the New Orleans Saints, just knowing that they need or potentially need a quarterback for the future, not only because of the future, but the reality of this year with Derek Carr's injury. This puts the Steelers firmly on the clock.
Okay, all 3 of those are excellent and fascinating, and we can dive in as we go on to the group of them. But let's start with the last piece of it, which is the Saints, the quarterback injury. Does that? People are going to connect dots here, Danny, and they're going to say, "Oh, Saints have a quarterback injury, Shedeur Sanders," and they're going to make a match.
It is entirely possible that there's Derek Carr injury news 2 weeks out from the draft that changes the Saints draft plan and forces them to take a quarterback at 9. It's more likely that it doesn't. Right? Because from what we understand, Carr and the Saints have been in communication. It's not a major surprise or anything to them. So whatever their plan was before this news broke on Friday should still be their plan. So if they like Shedeur Sanders enough to take him at 9, then they should have been doing that anyway, right? Before anything came up about Derek Carr and his shoulder. If they don't, then I don't think they need to force it just because of this. This is a team that has to be thinking about the long term. Carr is only going to be there 1 more year. Like Shedeur Sanders enough to take him at that pick, whether it's 2 or 3 or 9 or 6 or 21. Yet, great. Your other quarterback circumstances should not be determining that.
Let me get Traeger in here, Danny, because you were saying earlier today this idea, there are still mock drafts I'm seeing that have him going at 3. That is not the read you have as you talk to everybody.
We're 10 days out, and I feel like I just have to kind of level set here. I read all the mock drafts. I read all these articles, and we're going in on Shedeur Sanders going 2 or 3 to the Giants for the last 3 weeks. That didn't come from the teams. It didn't come from the Browns. It didn't come from the Giants. That's us speculating that Shedeur Sanders is this type of prospect. He may very well go 2, 3 to the Giants, 6 to the Raiders, 7 to the Jets, 9 to the Saints. It might happen. But let me tell you, that's not coming from the teams right now. From the teams right now, they're saying Cam Ward's likely going to the Titans, and there's a big drop-off, and maybe Shedeur is the 2nd quarterback taken. Is he a top 10 prospect traditionally? I don't get that from the teams, and that is nothing against Shedeur Sanders. I don't think at any point in the college season were we saying he's the number 2 or number 3 overall pick in this draft.
I think it's also important to note that when we're talking about the Browns at 2 and the Giants at 3, the pick isn't just not Shedeur Sanders.
It's who they're not
Abdul
taking.
Carter and Travis Hunter, who are possibly franchise-altering players at different positions, right? Like if the draft was Cam Ward and then nobody else that you loved, then maybe you do force a quarterback at that position. But these two teams have a chance to get, significant, major long-term contributors at key positions, and then maybe address quarterback a little bit later on.
Go ahead, Danny.
I agree with you guys' perspective on the Saints. My thought immediately went to the Steelers because, Graz, to the way you're describing it is, okay, if you were the Saints, this injury news or potential shouldn't really affect the way you think. But God, that Rodgers is a done deal. And again, I've been outspoken. I think it is, but that's my assumption. Yeah. You could waste TJ Watts last year under contract. You could waste another Cam Hayward season. You could waste another Minkah Fitzpatrick season. You could waste the first year of DK Metcalf. So if you're the Steelers and you're just playing this waiting game, I think now this makes you even more likely and more urgent to be, I got to get ahead number 9. I have to no matter what.
The key thing for everyone to remember, though, is they don't have their second-round pick. They traded it for DK Metcalf. That it may increase the urgency of getting a quarterback in the first round, but it also increases the difficulty of getting a quarterback in the first round if you have to trade up to do it.
Yeah, they don't have the same sort of ammunition that other teams do.
We had a 4 to 5 hour meeting in Pittsburgh at the end of last week, and I can tell you it went very well. I think that makes a lot more sense in the 20s than it does trading up to 9. Then again, if you love the quarterback, get him. Where you took him 9 or 21, it doesn't matter. That said, I just don't see him going in the top 10
Peter,
right now.
here's the thing, though. Let's fast forward 2 weeks, and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Saints take Shedeur Sanders, and someone takes Jackson Dart.
Right. Yeah.
Are you rolling out Shedeur Sanders right now with DK Metcalf and George Pickens and suddenly a Super Bowl contender? Dan, I'm missing what you're trying to say, because is he all of a sudden your long-term answer? If you didn't love him at 21, now it's okay because the Saints might take him. We need Shedeur Sanders.
Could you imagine?
Everyone stay where you are. Danny, I promise you, whatever
Let's go!
Whatever it is we were otherwise doing, we are not doing it anymore, okay? We're not doing whatever we were otherwise doing. We're